Hello, I'm Jonasz Rewinski and this is Military Mind. Armed conflicts, defense and security, land, sea and air. We've got you covered. Now today is a day of very intense military action in several regions. Overnight in Ukraine, the Russian army launched 55 Shahed attack drones and decoys of various types, as well as 4 Iskander ballistic missiles, according to the Ukrainian armed forces. Now, the airstrikes primarily targeted the Kharkiv, Donetsk and Dnipro regions. Hits by Russian UAVs were recorded in 9 locations, according to the Ukrainian Air Force. Meanwhile, in the first 5 months of 2025, the number of civilian deaths and injuries in Ukraine as a result of Russian strikes exceeded the figure for the same period in 2024 by almost 50%. The UN Human Rights Monitoring Mission in Ukraine reported in its monthly report on the 11th of June. According to experts, at least 183 civilians were killed and 836 injured in Ukraine in May alone. The high rate of civilian deaths and injuries in May followed a sharp increase in casualties in April. And now, the main topic of today, which is of course the Middle East. On the night of the 13th of June, Israel launched strikes on Iran, including uranium enrichment facilities in Natanz and Fordow. The targets included the leadership of the Iranian armed forces and the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, as well as scientists working on the nuclear program. Strikes were also carried out in Qom, where many of the Islamic Republic's spiritual leaders live. IDF spokesman Efi Deprin said it was a preemptive attack because Iran was closer than ever to acquiring nuclear weapons. On Sunday, the 15th of June, another round of talks between the US and Iran on the nuclear program was to take place in Oman. The stumbling block was the issue of uranium enrichment. According to Iran's Tasnim news agency, at least 50 people were injured in the Israeli strike and taken to a hospital in Tehran. In addition, the agency reports 6 nuclear scientists killed. A total of 200 Israeli Air Force fighter jets were deployed to strike targets linked to Iran's nuclear program, according to IDF spokesman Efi Deprin. In one of the frontline areas, where concrete anti-tank barriers often mean lives and equipment is worth its weight in gold, an episode occurred that reminds us once again that fire alone cannot defeat Ukrainian endurance. A truck manufactured by the company Kraz, performing an important engineering task, transporting concrete blocks to strengthen positions, came under enemy fire. Now, visually, it looked like the truck was completely burnt out. The bodywork burned, the exterior elements destroyed, and of course traces of flame and smoke everywhere. For most people, it looked like a written-off piece of scrap metal. But not for our crew, you see. How this turned out not to be the case at all. Only parts of the bodywork, which do not really affect the performance of the vehicle's systems and components, were actually affected by the fire. But the rest, well, see for yourself.
Що я вам казав? Все равно, їдем, потихеньку, помаленьку, но їдем.
You see, the automotive equivalent of the Terminator actually exists in real life. Now we're moving on to our next feature. The Ukrainian reconnaissance drone Shark detected a Russian Novotchik-2 UAV system in the Nova Karakuba village in the Donetsk region. Now, the target was initially hit by 2 kamikaze drones. While the Russians were attempting to extinguish the fire, a rocket from a HIMARS hit them, eliminating several of them. Presumably, the complex itself is also no longer operational. Now, the situation in the Toretsk sector remains intense. The positions of the 1st Operational Corps of the Azov National Guard came close to the positions of the occupiers' assault groups. The Russians tried to break through the front line, hoping for a surprise attack, but they encountered ironclad resistance. The battle broke out at a minimum distance, small arms contact in fact. The infantrymen of the 20th Lubartz Brigade acted in cold blood and with great precision. As a result of the battle, several invaders were eliminated right under the front trenches. And with this, today's episode of Military Mind comes to a close. Please stay with us here on TVP World for more latest news and updates.